I don't know what to say.
Jerry, hang in with us for just a second here. For those just tuning in right now at 15 past the hour, Johnny Carson has died at the age of 79. The king of late-night talk shows has passed away. Got his early jump in entertainment, believe it or not, as a magician at the age of 14. When he went to the University of Nebraska, he found radio, then television. He replaced Jack Paar in '62 and spent the better part of 3 decades dominating late-night television. Back now with Jerry Lewis, a great in his own right. Jerry, maybe it was the fact that this is a man who had the common touch. He was born in Corning, Iowa, raised in Nebraska. He knew America, didn't he?
I think that Johnny, no matter how long he lived in Hollywood, no matter how much money he made, he still had a piece of straw stuck in his ear.
And you know what, Jerry? He had his private troubles, which were always... He had his private troubles, which were always very, very public. He ran through 4 marriages. But what was so incredibly disarming about it is that he would poke fun of himself and crack jokes about all of the alimony and support payments that he had to make. I mean, it was classic stuff between Ed and Johnny.
The wonderful part about it was that had he not handled it that way, it would have exploded into a larger balloon and it would have created more problems. He handled it beautifully.
Were you surprised that he went out on top? May 21st, 1992, his last show. Bette Midler was there. Robin Williams.
Right.
He left on top, and he still had another good, 10 years left in him.
Oh, easily.
Were you surprised he did that?
No, I wasn't surprised because Johnny found great peace and wonderful solace in being reclusive. He and his wife had the best time together. And if you saw the two of them together, you would see the beauty of that love affair, and you would see the relaxation in Johnny's face. It was just, the strain was gone, the pressure of that kind of a show that brought those kinds of millions and millions and millions of dollars to the network. That's pressure. I don't care how good you are. I don't care what you do about it. The pressure will take over sooner or later.
Over those 30 years, how many times?
My God. Remember, he started in the first year, I think he had a dog commercial, and that was it. When he went off the air, I guarantee you there was a lineup of some 30 or 40 very big companies that were trying desperately to get one shot with Carson.
Yeah. How many times during the 3 decades that he hosted The Tonight Show, Jerry, were you on? And tell us some experiences.
Well, I did 17 shots with Johnny in the 30 years. Then I took over the show for 4 weeks and hosted it in New York. And every night that I hosted the show, I got a call from Johnny, and he had the most fun with me. He'd get me before airtime, and he'd say, "Don't louse up the store. Take care of business," and things like that, all through the 4 weeks. And I had the best time holding down that spot.
Did you take a different approach?
Well, you're in another man's turf. You have to respect the show he's got, and you can't do anything to disrupt the pattern of the program. But I get nuts wherever I am.
Yeah.
And it was okay as long as you stay within that parameter.
Jerry Lewis, you are one of the world's great comedians, and we appreciate your insight. If we can indulge just a few more minutes, we're facing a hard break here. We're going to pause and take a commercial break in a moment. Love to talk to you just a bit more about the great legacy of Johnny Carson, the king of late-night talk shows, has passed away.
And we'll have much more in this continuing coverage. Again, Johnny Carson died at the age of 79, his family by his side from emphysema. Again, we'll have much more coming up.
Welcome back to Fox News Live. In case you're just now joining us, legendary television entertainer Johnny Carson, the host of The Tonight Show for nearly 30 years, has passed away at the age of 79. He dominated the ratings throughout those years, and joining us once again on the telephone with his reflections, great in his own right, Jerry Lewis. Jerry, I know you've got to catch a plane in a couple of minutes. We'll make it quick, but one of the things you pointed out is that Johnny Carson was a great monologist. The monologue that he opened the show with every night was appointment viewing. My parents, I was a teenager at the time in the early 60s, my parents wouldn't allow me. I would sneak downstairs when they went to bed and I would tune in just to watch the monologue, and us kids would talk about it at school. Did he do it differently than anybody ever before him?
Johnny?
Yes.
Did he do what he did differently?
No, the monologue that he did at the beginning of the show.
Well, Johnny was he was very clear about his point of view in terms of politics, and he was also clear that the monologue, though it needed to be laughter and funny, it could also contain meaningful things. So he wouldn't take anything inane or trite and play with that. He had a very, very classy point of view, and if it was on his show, he meant for it to be totally excellent. Mm-hmm. So he was a taskmaster of seeing that monologue's current, it was up to date, and that he had fun with it, and that it could be played with without offending anyone or anything. He was very conscious of that.
You mentioned that you filled in for him for the better part of 4 weeks
right.
at one point in time. The shows that I attended live in Burbank they were live to tape. I don't think they ever had any do-overs. They used to tape it at 5 o'clock.
Right.
And then it would run, obviously, late night.
Right.
But I mean, that was essentially live. I don't think they ever stopped down if he screwed up or anything like that. What is that like, night after night, to do a live show like that, especially to do a monologue? And
particularly since his rule for that show was no retaping unless there was a very, very large technical glitch. Were it not that, no retaping. So he was doing everything on that moment, at the moment we received it on television. And that was part of the pressure.
Jerry, I know you've got to catch a plane. Your reflections as we say goodbye to you here, your reflections on the life and the legend of Johnny Carson.
And we loved him very much, and he gave a lot of love to us.
Jerry Lewis, many thanks, sir, for being with us. We appreciate your thoughts.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And now we want to go to Johnny Carson's last monologue, which was back in 1992. It was a huge show. Some of the guests on there were Bette Midler, Robin Williams were his final guests. The show apparently had huge ratings, an audience of 50 million people. So again, this is Johnny Carson's monologue from his last show back in 1992. Let's take a listen.
I'm going to have to be very honest with you. I don't know if I can take another night of this. Oh, thank you. That's I don't know what to say. You're sure you're in a good mood? You've been outside 12 hours with a thermos of margaritas. I looked out and saw a little light. Did you see what's going on in front of the building out here? It's like a circus out there. There are two mimes and an Elvis impersonator working in the line out here. I looked out and the guy was trying to assemble a barbecue grill out there. Well, anyway, it's almost over. You know what? I feel like a chicken. And the Colonel is whipping up those 11 herbs and spices. All we have is tonight and tomorrow, and gone. God, I haven't used that line since World War II. Yes, my dear, I'm going overseas. Mm-hmm. You betcha. Look, it's not like we're not going to ever see each other again. I mean, we're still on from Memorial Day, my place, 2 o'clock, right? Did you know, our leaving is already causing a ripple effect. Today I saw Jim Fowler and a boa constrictor in the unemployment line waiting to get in. But anyway, General Electric, the conglomerate with a heart, took me for my final dinner. Took me for the final dinner before the show. They wanted to get to Coco's early before the prices changed. Any Brown supporters here? I'm talking Murphy Brown. Well, let's go to the news and see if Dan Quayle has condemned the lifestyle of Urkel on Family Matters.